Hi, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Good evening. I've been doing some chores lately which takes me into various places in the Philippine government, how things are done, and noticing the difference. And it mainly is the people. And so it brings me into that subject of happiness. Now, I used to, before I ever came to the Philippines, for this last time, I used to, in fact, I was watching what was happening. You may remember this a few years ago. What is it? Six, maybe 7, 8, or 9 years ago, Haiti went through quite a time, and a lot of governments send a lot of people out there to help those people through their I think it was an earthquake, wasn't it, or a typhoon? Terrible natural catastrophe happened, and tens or hundreds of thousands of people were out. Well, one of the things that I actually spoke to a couple who went out to Haiti sometime later. They saw some of the devastation, and their lasting impression was of a happy people. Now, this is extraordinary, isn't it? That you could go to a place where everybody is suffering the most incredible deprivation and often loss of family, dear loved ones, the death of people very close to you, and yet still be able to give a betrayal to some stranger that you have inside you, a degree of happiness that they can only marvel at. Well, I looked around, and I am a people watcher. I enjoy looking at people. I enjoy looking at how they respond. I am very much aware that the way that you present yourself influences the way that people respond to you. And it's almost like it emanates out from you. Your satisfaction with your life emanates out ahead of you. It gives signals like that, almost like saying, look out, here's a happy person coming along. And it allows them to relax and to be nice to you. Remember that the psychology joke of the woman who is terribly stressed with her job, and she goes to a psychiatrist and she says, I'm just so unhappy, I'm so depressed. And he says, what's the matter? And she says, well, it's just that I work with such nasty people. You know, they are just nasty to me. And she said, I just don't know how I'm ever going to be able to handle this, because I cannot give up my job. So he says, well, I'll put you on a course of pills which will, which may help. Come back in a week or 2 weeks for a refill of the prescription. Well, after 2 weeks, the woman arrives for her appointment, and she goes in, and he pulls out the prescription, and he says, okay, so we'll look at another, shall we make it for another month this time instead of 2 weeks? So she said, there's no need. There's no need, I don't need it. She said, I don't know what happened, but these people, she'd been taking the pill, of course, they just started to be nice to me. She said, I'm just the same as I always was. I took the pill, and yes, it made me feel more relaxed and everything, but she said, they all changed. So obviously the moral of this story is that she changed. And because she changed and felt either more relaxed or easier to get along with or whatever, everybody else around her stopped reacting in the way that her attitude to them made them react. They were simply reacting according to her. Somebody else said, in one of the books I read, the man says, what about people who go out in a car and they're having a bad day, and they go out and they have a violent confrontation with someone because of road rage. And when they're trying to justify what they said, I don't know, he just made me mad. Well, the truth is that the mad was already there. Just their inability to confront or cope with a certain situation brought it out and allowed her to or him to express that madness in a way that they would be able to justify. And that's what happened. So where does this bring me back to my recent experience with, well, in my case it was the LTO. Now the LTO, I don't usually deal with these people, I don't usually deal with people in government offices because it might require better language, better Visayan. And why would I do that when Beth could just go up and very simply get the way cleared, and I remained at the back, perhaps they prop me up in a corner, and then everything gets done. Well, in this particular case today, Beth said, I want to upload these videos, why don't you go down to the LTO and see about the registration for the truck? So stupidly, or well, understandably maybe, I'll justify it for me, what happened was we'd allowed it to become overdue. So we'd actually been out of registration. Well, Beth had already been in, they copied the thing, they made 2 copies of 2 documents and they sent them to Manila and told us, come back in a couple of weeks. So I was coming back in a couple of weeks. I present the piece of paper that I say to the person, I've been told to come back in 2 weeks, and here I am. Well, they then try to understand exactly what happened. Now, what's the difference? Well, when I went in, these 2 people, a man and a woman, sitting at 2 desks joined together, and they're there to deal with complaints and questions by the public. Now, they smiled. They smiled at me. I wasn't expecting any problem at all, and I just went in there, don't ask me how, just knowing that everybody would be nice to me, and I, you know, I'll chance my arm and say that that's what I emanate, that everybody's going to be nice to me. Now, I don't go in smiling like this, and hey, you'll be nice to me because I'm a great guy. I don't do that. I relax, and I go in and I say, can you help me? This is what happened. And if they don't quite understand it, I tell them again, and I ask them for their help. The lady said, yes, well, let me see. Well, and then she spoke to the man next to her, and he was incredibly nice to me, and he said, well, come around and sit with me. I went around and sat, and he said, well, maybe, and they didn't get it right at first. Why did they send this away? Why did you send this away? No, I didn't. You sent it. Well, not you personally, sir, but somebody here sent this away and told me to come back in 2 weeks. So he said, okay, well, come with me. And he gets up, and I follow him, and he takes me into another office where a man is sat behind a computer. And then it's explained to him. Now, the point of all of this is that everybody is smiling. And I'm always amazed that people who visit and perhaps decide that they're going to stay here after they've run away from somewhere in the West for one reason and another, I'm always surprised that people don't seem to pick up on this, that people here are actually happy. And they're not happy because they've got the latest model of Mercedes. They're not happy because their house is beautifully furnished with a stainless steel kitchen. They're not happy for any of the usual reasons. They're happy, as far as a Westerner goes, these people are happy in spite of the little that they have. Now, wouldn't you think that that would be a secret that every expat would immediately see? wait a minute, these people haven't got very much, but they're happy. Why? Oh, wouldn't that, for anybody who's thinking, anybody that's seeking this great treasure of happiness, what is the American way? The pursuit of happiness. And here, in spite of all the training that most Westerners have got, the next best car, changing their car, getting a bigger house, getting new furniture, getting a flat screen TV, having money in the bank, going out and having a lavish dinner, all of these things are what normally constitutes a happiness in the West, in my experience. Now, I actually knew, because of where I was living and the circle that I was somewhat associated with, I never actually saw anybody who was truly happy with all of the abundance that they had. I spoke to a man who had moved out of an apartment that was just simply too small for him. It was only, he lived alone, and the place was just too small. It was just too cramped, he explained to me. It was only 5,000 square feet. My heart bled for him. And he'd moved into something that was about 7. And his walk-in closet, in my eyes, was like a playing field. It was like a football field. It was so big. He had line after line of suits, clothes that he would never be able to wear. And so it puzzles me that people don't pay more attention to this gift that the Filipino seems to have gained, and that is happiness. Now, if you live in the Philippines or you come to the Philippines, do this. Don't say anything. Don't pass any judgments. Don't look around and criticize. Don't try to teach the people that you meet how good it is in the West. Just look at the faces. Look at the smiles. Look at how these people live. And try to find out what the secret is. Because they're happy. The only time that I even briefly may get a little unsettled is because I start to act like a Westerner. I start to think that being kept waiting for 2 minutes is too much. Wait a minute, I was here first. I never do the I was here first routine, because here it's different. People behave differently. People serve others. It's different. So I just relax and I just try to get along. And I find that it's not a huge sacrifice, because all of that happiness rubs up on me. And I am where I should be. And I am so happy with my life. All of its inconveniences, all of its trying to get up this hill or down that hill in a truck that just isn't really up to it, all of the mud, all of the rain, all of that, all of the heat, all of that, I'm happy. So maybe I've just started to be on the cusp of finding out what this great secret is that Filipinos have. And they do have it, believe me. That's why some of the stories that I get told to me are so incredible. I found someone who makes me incredibly happy. I get a lot of those. Even those who say it took a few to find. Well, you can go for a whole lifetime in the West and never find it, so be patient. It might take a few to find that happiness. But grab it. Listen, watch, learn. Look at the faces. Look how easily people smile. Look how easily they laugh. Out of all the things that I did today, I came out with that lasting image of people laughing. And these are people who are working in government offices, probably doing mind-numbingly boring jobs. And they're laughing. They're happy. It's a secret. It's the prize. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. Thanks for watching in.